Massive thanks to the mad lads and ladies supporting the channel. The doggos say thanks. Hey everyone, it's time for some more Monster Hunter, and let's talk about Grand Theft Auto 6 costing $100, as well as XQC's response to it. Now, this is a bit of a touchy subject for me. Personally, I feel like, at least for the most part, I can come off of both sides of people's views on Grand Theft Auto 6 costing $100. Now, I have never been rich in my life, but I have been well off. I have made enough money at one point to rent out my own townhouse and have my own vehicle at the same time, and I still had enough money to save up for a little niche gamer micro laptop. Unfortunately, that really didn't last long, but at the very least, I can still come from that same mindset of being in that position for about 6 months, I would say. Now, I'm somebody who's never really been well off as a whole. I've always been in a situation where I've struggled, at least to some extent, financially speaking, but at the same time, I understand that certain things can, cost certain amounts of money, and as inflation rises, so should the cost of certain products and goods. Now, a lot of investors, a lot of shareholders, and a lot of just people in general who would benefit from it are hoping Grand Theft Auto 6 costs $100. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no doubt that Grand Theft Auto 6 will be worth $100. Now, Grand Theft Auto 6 isn't a game that I will personally get. As a whole, Rockstar and Take-Two, they are extremely disrespectful to the gaming community, to their viewer base, to their, customers. And, they wouldn't call them consumers. They're not consumers. They don't just consume. They are actual people to their customers. And for those, just ethically speaking, from a moral standpoint, I don't really get Call of Duty. I don't really get Grand Theft Auto 6. Maybe I'll get it from a secondhand reseller at some point if it's on, like, a huge discount. But not until then, most likely. Unfortunately, we're at a position where if Grand Theft Auto 6 ends up costing $100, most games will likely follow suit. The upside of that is that budgets can continue to go up and we can have like visually striking, really good looking games. The bounds of technology can be pushed. However, even considering like nowadays, like that's only hypothetical. If you look at the games industry nowadays, games that come out now are very unoptimized. Look at Monster Hunter Wilds, and even if they're stellar games as a whole, they just don't really perform well because these budgets aren't being responsibly used. I mean, they might be used, like in the case of Monster Hunter Wilds, I really do think their budget was warranted and they did use it, intelligently for the most part. Unfortunately, that's kind of where my expertise on it ends. I would say that, taking the dynamic weather and everything else into account, I think Monster Hunter Wilds is a good case of, yeah, for a game that costs $70, I'd say it's pretty worth it. Now, when it comes to, let's say, Assassin's Creed, or nowadays Far Cry, absolutely not. $100 for that game is just absolute slop. And the AAA gaming industry has been on decline lately. Because of that, like, people are getting desperate. Like, these executives, the CEOs, the shareholders, they're getting desperate to extract all the money they can from their viewer base. They're focusing heavily on live service interactions, live service, games. They're focusing on how they can, like, nickel and dime and implement microtransactions into the games in every single way they can. And the thing about games costing $100 is it's going to follow the same route. It started with Horse Armor from Oblivion, thanks to Bethesda. Thank you, Bethesda. Does anybody remember Horse Armor from Oblivion? Dead Space, an amazing game series, could have lived if it weren't for Horse Armor and Oblivion. We could have already had another Onimusha game. We could have had, better Fallout games. We could have had a better Fallout game instead of Fallout 76. If it weren't for Horse Armor from Oblivion, we could have had, No Creation Club and Bethesda games. I am fond of the Bethesda games as a whole, although not Fallout 76 or Starfield for obvious reasons. But my point is that generally, just because the price goes up doesn't mean the quality go up. And rarely when the price goes up, does the quality go up. Now, recently, just a few years ago, we switched over from $60 for a AAA game to $70 for a AAA game. And all I want to ask is, what's really changed besides the budgets for these games? Yeah, we got Grand Theft Auto 6, but what else? I could say that without ray tracing and the dynamic weather system, Monster Hunter Wilds, for example, could have come out on the Xbox One and PS4 just as much as Monster Hunter World could have. Now, don't get me wrong, they also have better lighting technology, but they don't have, like, 80, 90 monsters in the base game for the ballooning budgets and for the amount of money they're now charging us. Also, again, as I said, inflation is a factor. Here's the problem with that. We have, as a whole, switched over to a mostly digital-only distribution platform. Now, what I want to know is how many people remember executives and companies saying, yeah, we want to switch over from physical media to digital media, which is mostly licenses. It doesn't give you full ownership of the games. Although if you use GOG on PC, GOG, they'll actually give you an offline installer for the game. So this doesn't apply to them. Now, they said, like, a lot of the executives, a lot of the marketing was like, we're switching over to digital only. And the reason for that is because they said that they can pass the savings on to consumers or customers. We did not get those savings. We got microtransactions, we got loot boxes, we got egregious monetization, predatory tactics to basically prey on child gambling. We got layoffs in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands at this point since then. We've had monopolizations over studios that were bought out and then summarily just shelled or, not shelled, shed or just forced to produce AI slop. Looking at you, Dragon Age the Veilguard, Fallout 76. There are several others. Was it Visceral Games with Dead Space 3? Or no, it was Pandemic, I think. They also made Star Wars Battlefront 2 on the PS2. How many of y'all remember that game? It was a really good game. We just don't get those games anymore because we don't get the savings. Instead, the executives and people at the top of the corporate ladder get all the money. And it really is, like, I know I'm going on a whole capitalist rant. I don't think, capitalism bad, but I think greed is bad. And that's really what it boils down to. We're not getting $100 for games because of any reason outside of greed. The money has to keep going up for shareholders. It has to keep going up. Line has to go up, or shareholders will pull out en masse and then bankrupt the company because they start to rely wholly on the shareholders. Now, I know I have stressed that, yeah, I do not ever intend, unless my life is in danger, I'm going to be homeless or something like that, I am not going to implement ads into my videos. And the reason why I'm not going to implement ads into my videos on YouTube is because they're scams. And also on top of that, I don't want to be beholden to YouTube. I don't want to be beholden to the algorithm. Yeah, going out saying the N-word, saying the slur for homosexual people, and saying, all the worst things you can imagine. Yeah, that'll get you banned, and well-deserved, I think. If you're just going to be a hateful, awful person, sure, why not? But I'm not going to say, hey, COVID existed and 1 million people died. Just like that, my video is no longer eligible for monetization, and I'm fine with that. Because it's the truth. Look at the numbers. Look at the facts. Research it. I can if a whole bunch of people are like, oh no, COVID is fake. If I get 50, 100 people in the comments saying it's fake, I will do a video going over the data, going over the news coverage, going over, the news coverage can be tampered with. Just going over every single bit of information from every single source I can to prove it. And yeah, if you say COVID is real, people died, YouTube will demonetize your videos. That's stupid. It's controversial. Oh, so what? It's controversial. It's not like the Adpocalypse where you had ISIS videos with people getting executed and then ads playing on it. That is completely different. But even so, it really is just a matter of these companies are beholden to shareholders, and because of that, they have to keep making more and more money. And it's gotten to the point where they can't find any additional revenues for monetization outside of loot boxes, and that's just gambling, and that's been banned in a lot of games. Or advertising in their games, if y'all remember that. EA wanted to put ads in their games. And even besides that, just in general, adding just more and more egregious monetization or raising the price of video games. That's all I can do now. They're even selling early access to games, which is actually just launching the game and then charging people to play it on time. And they're now putting that behind a paywall because they have nothing left to monetize. So as a whole, $100 for a video game, it is a bit too much. Now, I already went over the, the ethical, moral, financial, business side of it and explained, why it doesn't need to happen for some of these companies, it's so they can make their line go up, so the investors will stay in. And outside of that, just I'm gonna go over XQC's comment on it. Because like, oh, people will pay $200, $300 for a game that comes out every single year, once a year. You know, talking about Madden, talking about NBA 2K, talking about FIFA, talking about Call of Duty. You know, and I get where he's coming from in that respect. And then after that, he says, oh, but you're gonna raise the stink over a game going from $70 to $100. Here's the thing: when I was a child, I would say about 20 years ago, games were $60. 15 years ago, games were $60. And you know what they did? They completely removed almost all forms of digital, like physical distribution. There's very little physical distribution now. And half the time, whenever they physically distribute the game, either you don't get the full game on the disc, or it's not the actual game. It's like Fallout 76. Oh, you'll just get a piece of cardboard with a game code on it, which is just a slap in the face for people who want to like physically own their media, in my opinion. But even outside of that, XQC's response on it is extremely tone deaf. Why? Because he's fucking rich. He's fucking rich. This dude he's just out of his mind, just absolutely loaded. And he will never have to worry about money again for the rest of his life. You know what? Also, he doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about customers. He doesn't care about people. He's already promoted gambling. He's already, you know, done a whole bunch of shady shit to show, yeah, he doesn't care. If you find his stuff entertaining and you watch him, cool and all, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care if it costs $100 because he's rich. He would care if it cost $100 if he was making minimum wage working at McDonald's. If he was barely making it in a place like Brazil, the Philippines, what was it, Venezuela, you know, a place like the United States, a place like Japan, a place like Europe, you know, a lot of places in Europe, like, you know, France, Spain, you know, I guess Britain too. Pretty much anywhere there's the euro, the pound, the dollar, even Sweden, Finland, you know, these countries that have first world amenities and they're doing good. Yeah, maybe for $100 won't affect us too bad. The problem is half of Americans, like a quarter to a half of Americans, they are working check to check. They are living check to check. If they had a $500 expense right now in my current position, just with the amount of money I have right now, I have no savings, but I do make enough to where I can get what I need. I'm going to be taking my dogs to the vet soon. And in order to do that, I'm going to use about half of a check. And I'm lucky to be in that position. See, a year ago, well, I won't say a year ago, but a year and a half ago, I was in a position where if my dog suddenly got a dangerous disease, I could not afford to take her to the vet. And even then, like the most I could spend at the vet right now is about $1,000. $1,000 expense is the best I could do. And even then, I'd probably need like 2 weeks notice. And in that sort of situation, just the simple fact that XQC can be like, you know, oh, well, you know, everybody can just afford it. It's fine. You know, people spend $200, $300 on the game. See, the thing is, these are people that have $200, $300 to spend. If you go out there and you look at the actual facts, the actual data, how many people are well off enough to where they can do that? How many people get more than one game a year? How many people get something that isn't 5 years old or only in a Humble Bundle? None. No, like almost nobody. Like maybe a quarter to a third at most of gamers that aren't on PC. If you're a PC gamer, I would say that number goes up to about 60, 70%. You can mostly keep up with it because PC gaming is expensive. At the cost, you know, you can like mod your games. You can have all this custom software. You can create content, like high quality, use effects, use mods, have the best graphics available to you. You can afford to do these sorts of things as a PC gamer. Now, when it comes to, let's say, you know, somebody who's working at McDonald's, let's say somebody just spent their last check on a, I don't know, on an Xbox Series X, because that's all they got, or a PS5, because now they're finally $500 again, and they're barely affordable. When you have people that are like this, they can't afford to spend $100 on a game. And a lot of them who do spend $200 or $300 on skins, they're just addicts. A lot of the times these skins they buy are done through like predatory gambling. People have a problem gambling and they'll still play it. And yeah, these people need to learn how to express self-control. They need to have self-control because it was like me. I'm losing a lot of weight now. I'm getting really fit because I decided to control myself and stop being addicted to food. But I didn't just stop being addicted to food. I still sometimes overeat. I still sometimes miss my goals on losing weight. And I'm still overweight, even after like 3 months of losing weight now, like 3.5 months of losing weight. And it's not by much now, but it's still enough to be noticeable. And in those sorts of situations, all I can say is, you know, what about the people who can't afford it? That's really all I can say. These people who do spend $200-$300, most of them are either problem gamblers who are being, you know, seduced by the gambling mechanics of various games, or they're people who just can't afford it. The small minority of people who can't afford it and who don't mind, a lot of them are saying things like, you know, oh, don't be a brokey. Cool, go buy a house, or go try to get a car. Go try to, I don't know, do anything that involves a substantial amount of money, like $1,000 or more. Just go out and do it and see how well that affects you. If you can just go out there and spend $1,000, in my opinion, and not to like promote any sort of classism as an example, but I don't think anybody who can like incur $1,000 expense and be fine after that has any right to say, oh, just don't be a brokey, you know, or try to use spending egregious amounts of money for a shit game like Assassin's Creed Shadows, or I don't know, freaking Starfield. You know, those people, in my opinion, don't have a right to say anything because they are not the people affected. That's the problem. They're not the people affected. Somebody like me, for example, at this point, I won't be affected, but 6 months ago, I would have been heavily affected by something like that. Somebody who, like I said, lives in Venezuela, Brazil, the Philippines, you know, people who are living in low-income countries where they can barely afford to survive. These are the people who are effective, and they don't make up like 5% in gaming. You know, if you exclude the United States, Europe, maybe Canada, there's still a lot of people out there, like 30-40% at least, outside of these huge, you know, countries. These are still people that will be affected by this decision, and these are people who won't be able to keep up. Like me, I have a backlog of almost $1,000 worth of games. Some of them only like $20 or $30, because even though I could get something like Monster Hunter Wilds, because I want to play, like, that is a game I know I'll be able to play for a long period of time and enjoy. You know, it's something like Elden Ring. I pre-ordered that when it came out. I got the deluxe edition because I knew that is a game I would love and enjoy for a long time to come. I still have a lot of games that maybe I can play for a month or two and enjoy them. But for me, the $20 or $30 to get them isn't worth it, because I'm still in that kind of financial position where I can't just get any game I want. And as soon as I get bored with one game, I just have to go back and play a back catalog. Now, obviously, I have this YouTube channel, and I'll be playing through all the Monster Hunter games. So that has been pretty set for a couple years, but then what? When games are $100, when games are like $150, you know, they're going to keep pushing the bar. It went from $60 to $70. That was a $10 price jump. Maybe if it went to $80, I wouldn't be as upset by this comment, but it's going up by $30 to $100. How much more incremental is it going to get? Are they going to go up to $106, like $110 next, $120, $125, $150? At what point is it too much to have a hobby and enjoy a hobby? I am somebody that grew up in an extremely low income. I lived in poverty for a lot of my life, and I grew up exclusively in poverty. And all I had whenever the Xbox 360 was out for the longest time was a PS2. And then my family, as soon as it came to the attention of my dad, my family was effectively neglecting me, just completely ignoring my existence, going on trips and just completely excluding me, you know, not having any part of my life. Then he got me an Xbox 360, and I had like 3 games for it. I had Borderlands, I had Borderlands 2, and I had Halo Reach. Those were, oh, and Skyrim. I had 4 games. And most of those I got at a pawn shop, or from, I think I had Xbox Gold one time. Like, one time I got Xbox Gold for the Halo Reach. And being in that sort of situation, it's like, yeah, you know, I was pretty well off. I got lucky, I guess, in that my dad got me an Xbox 360, and I was able to find these games at the pawn shop. But that's not, like, a lot of people won't have that luck. A lot of people won't have the luxury of, you know, not playing the newest Call of Duty or the newest Madden with their friends because it costs $100, and maybe they can only do like $80 at most. You know, there's a reason why deluxe editions don't usually sell gangbusters. It's usually the base edition of games. Unless it's for exceptions like Elden Ring, maybe Monster Hunter Wilds, you know, Dark Souls 3 whenever it came out, Final Fantasy 15 whenever it came out. You know, there's a reason a lot of people get base editions of a lot of games. And that's just because it's not worth it to them, or either that or they can't afford it. And a lot of these people aren't filthy, stinking rich. A lot of these people aren't even well off. A lot of people are just objectively broke, and they barely live in check to check because corporations don't want to pay their workers anymore. They just don't. People don't want to pay people anymore because money is tight and everything's more expensive. See, if something like Ferraris or Lamborghinis, or, you know, I don't know, let's say something reasonable, just like maybe a little vacation home, a little $400,000 vacation home that XQC really wanted to get, they can definitely afford. It's easy for him to pay $400,000 for a vacation home. And he probably already has a vacation home. And if he doesn't, fair play. But let's say XQC spends like, you know, oh, wow, that I'm going to die. Well, ripperoni and pepperoni. That's why you got to be careful of Rathian's cell. Even in low range, she'll still wipe you out. But let's say XQC had his eyes on this really, really nice $400,000 vacation home. And then it goes up to like $450,000. For XQC, that would be like, let's say I make about $3,000 a month at my current job. And this is like after taxes and everything. Let's say I make, you know, let's say I want to get a $400,000 home, which I won't be able to. Let's say I want to get a $50,000 home, which maybe I can afford after like 3 to 6 months of saving, because I don't have any credit, because I never take anything out in credit. I hate credit. I think credit's a scam. But all right, let's say there's like a $50,000 home, and it went up $50,000. Unlike XQC, who would have a right to complain at least, because that would be a lot of money for him to spend extra, just like for me, $100 for a video game would be a lot of money to you know, spend. $50,000 on like a $50,000 home, that would be like $100,000. That would be completely out of my budget. It would be impossible for me to get that home right now without saving back at least $50,000 to $60,000. And that, even then, that's like very few banks will want to deal with me because I have no credit, because I think credit's a bit of a scam and I really don't want to engage with it until I'm completely well off and I know I'll never have to worry about money again. And so, like, it's just this big dichotomy. Not to, like, promote classism in any way, shape, or form, but if you are a rich person and there's something that's, like, objectively pennies for you, and you're like, you know, oh, this thing that's pennies for me. Let's say something's $1 here and it goes up to $1.50. In Canada, it will go up to, like, $2.50. So I could be like, you know, oh, well, it's $1.50. It's not that bad. I cannot say that, you know, it going up $1, let's say in Canada, is okay. You know, those people have a much better reason to complain than me. Because for me, I would still be paying about $5 for it. Let's multiply it by 4. Like a dollar, okay, maybe not $1, $7. People in Canada would be paying 10. And that kind of price difference is substantial if you just look at it as a percentage. You know, if you look at a video game and it's $70, it's going up. I don't know the exact percentage. Let's say it was $100 before. 30% of that was added on to there just because corporations said, oh, well, yeah, our budgets are higher. The quality of the games isn't. Grand Theft Auto 6 will be a $100 game in terms of quality. I have no doubt about it. But the next Assassin's Creed after that won't be $100. The next portable Monster Hunter series on the Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever, that's not going to be $100. If Final Fantasy VII Remake 3 comes out and it's got poor PC performance, it's not going to be $100. Monster Hunter Wilds, as is not $100. I would say it's barely even $70. I would say it's like $50 or $60, including the performance issues. Not to downplay the amount of effort that went into it, but because you're not getting a finished quality product. You're not getting $70 of value unless you're a super fan of the Monster Hunter series like I am. I pre-ordered the Deluxe Super Ultimate Edition with all this stuff because I am a Monster Hunter super fan, because it's relevant to me as a content creator, and because, for me at least, in terms of fun factor, the beta was worth it in order to convince me to buy it. I played the beta, even with its performance issues, on a device that technically was barely supported, and I still loved it. So, for those reasons, I think that, you know, XQC is wrong to, like, try to have a say in this and convince people, oh, you're just a brokey. Pokimane can't say, oh, you're a brokey for not being able to afford my cookies that I'm, like, overcharging for after making basically no difference to it after purchasing the brand from Costco. You Pokimane has no right to say, oh, we'll just be a brokey, because if you're going to overcharge for a product, if you're going to charge a premium, it needs to be a product that is worth a premium. Grand Theft Auto 6 will be a premium game. It will, like, just from what they've shown us so far, and this is huge, horrible technical issues, or the story is just absolutely dog shit like Borderlands 3's was. Like, the jump from Grand Theft Auto 5 to Grand Theft Auto 6 compared to, like, Borderlands 2 to Borderlands 3, it will be worth $100. Now, if it's something along the lines of, oh, I'm gonna die again, that's not good. If it's something along the lines of, let's say, I don't know, the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Edition or whatever. If it's something more akin to that, it's not going to be $100. It is not. And, that's just the risk we have to take and hope that they deliver us that $100 product. The Grand Theft Auto 5 Enhanced just released, and they do not let you migrate your account over yet. Maybe, like your Grand Theft Auto Online account, maybe they're going to pretty much, maybe they'll fix it at some point. But it's the fact that it launched in the state, that they're charging a premium just for adding, like, ray tracing or something, that mods added several years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Mods already had ray tracing into that game, and they had it be about as good as it could be at the time. And Rockstar is basically modding the game, adding a graphics mod on it, and then charging a premium. And not only that, they're removing Grand Theft Auto 5, the original version, from Steam. And yeah, if the Grand Theft Auto 3 Trilogy Edition, if Grand Theft Auto 5 Enhanced are any indicator to go by for Grand Theft Auto 6, I don't think Grand Theft Auto 6 will be a $100 game, unless it's like, Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2, I could say, was like a $100 game, or maybe like an $80 or $90 game. Red Dead Online was barely a $10 experience. Grand Theft Auto 6, if it's as good as they're showing it to be, will be a $100 game. But it's just something that you have to be careful of. And not only that, if the price does go up to $100, it will price out a lot of people. Not just a lot of people in the United States or Canada or Europe or Japan. It'll price out a lot of people in the entire world. People who, when it went from $60 to $70, they're like, all right, that's my cap. Hopefully it stays this way for 15 years again, because 15, 20 years again, because if it goes up anymore, I won't be able to afford it. If it goes up to $100, they will not be able to play these games day one. They won't be able to play their friends who may be better off. If they want to be content creators, they're not going to be able to get their foot in with the newest games and, try to make their lives a little bit better like I'm trying to by being a content creator, because they just will not be able to afford it. And because of that, it's like, yeah, I don't think XQC has a right to say, oh, it's fine, it's hardly any money, because he's well off. He doesn't understand how much $100 is to somebody like me a couple of years ago, to somebody like that college student who's just barely paying rent, and his only reprieve from, being able to, I don't know, just take the stress from class and exams and stuff. They're only reprieve because they can't afford to go out to the bar and get drinks. They can't afford to, go skydiving. They can't afford to go mountain climbing. They can't afford a vacation. There's people out there who are working like me almost nonstop. I had my first vacation. I had like 3 days off of work. This was the first time in 10 years I had a vacation because I couldn't afford to take a vacation. And I finally am making enough money that I was barely able to squeak out and afford a vacation. Most people cannot do that. And those people who are just barely surviving, who can't afford a vacation, who can't afford, to go out to the bar, who can't afford takeout every other day. It's not just people getting Starbucks. It's not just people getting Starbucks, because at the end of the day, a lot of those people aren't the ones being affected by it. It's those people who are working at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or trying to make their lives better, and video games are their only way to not hate their life. It's the only thing keeping them sane. Like me, I played God of War as a kid, and look at how it turned out. I am super empathetic. I care about everybody, too much even, because nobody really cared about me, and I played God of War, and instead of being like a violent, aggressive person, I'm like, yeah, this helps me not be angry. I do have anger issues, and that game helped me deal with my anger, and it was very constructive for me. Now imagine if I couldn't afford to get God of War. God of War helped shape you know, me enjoying Monster Hunter, me enjoying Final Fantasy and God of War. I got my PlayStation 2, Final Fantasy X, and Final Fantasy 12 as a gift from my dad. God of War, I got that at a pawn shop for like $10. Imagine if I couldn't pay for God of War. It would completely drastically alter the way I am now. I'm not trying to get all, you know, emotional, tug at your heartstrings and stuff. It's not going to be like that profound of effect on a lot of people, but it is going to be profound enough that a lot of people who maybe wanted to play games really badly, or maybe just wanted to do something with their friends, they wouldn't be able to, and they're now priced out. So I didn't mean for this to go on a huge rant. I didn't mean for it to be as angry as it was, but it's just something that does genuinely bother me. If you're in a well-off position and something is small and incremental to you, that's fine. It'd be one thing if he was talking about Ferraris and stuff. We are never, like, people like me, I'm never going to be able to get a Ferrari. Most likely, I will never be able to get a Ferrari. And I have no interest in ever getting a Ferrari. But there's also car enthusiasts who are broke, and they just want to have, like, you know, build their own cheap muscle cars. They're never going to be able to get a Ferrari because it's just too expensive. And that's fine. They still have, you know, their cheap muscle cars. We do still have cheap games, like indie games, but these big budget releases that everybody's hyped up for, that fear of missing out that's going to be preyed on, they're going to spend like the money they should have spent on rent or something on Grand Theft Auto 6 because it's $100 instead of $70, and they're like $30 short on rent, or maybe they give up a couple of days of food for it, because there are people that will do that. These people have no right. Like there is no right to like tell these people, oh, well, screw you for not being able to enjoy this generally accessible hobby that you've now been priced out of because it's been upgraded to a premium. It doesn't make you better that you can afford $100 for a video game. It doesn't make you better if you think that it's not a big deal. It does not make you better. It just means you're comfortable. It just means you're good. It just means you don't have to worry about struggling because you're making enough money to where $100 isn't a big purchase for you. If you say somebody who can't afford, like, and this isn't just XQC, this is just people in general, it's been pissing me off. If somebody says, like, oh, well, don't be a brokey, and that's their opinion on it, they have no right to enjoy that hobby. They have no right to enjoy that hobby until they're in that exact same position to be able to see it from that person's point of view. I think empathy is one of the most important things here. That's the biggest message I was trying to get to at the end of the day. Empathy is so important. Empathy is one of the most important things you can have, because the ability to understand people and relate to them and be able to say, like, yeah, I get that. That can help you deal with so many problems in life. It can prevent a lot of suffering. It can prevent a lot of problems. It can objectively make the world a better place if we had more leaders, more politicians, more people in positions of power who genuinely had empathy. And just having that empathy for the people who can't afford these things. Yeah, every game shouldn't be $30. Like, maybe every game going up to $70 wasn't too big of a deal. It was a $10 price jump after like 20 years, fine. But $100 for a video game, even a AAA video game, is too much. Because pretty soon, you're going to have Fallout 76 for $100. You're going to have Assassin's Creed Unity, if you're old enough to remember that, for $100. You're going to have, I don't know, Assassin's Creed Shadows 2 for $100. The next, you know, Ubisoft game for $100. You're going to have Switch games for $100. Nintendo Switch games. Like, objectively, the reason to play on handheld is because the games cost less, because they have less graphical fidelity. They're not as, you know, expensive to make unless you include a lot of deep systems and mechanics. Like, let's say Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Okay, sure, that could be a $70 game. Mario Odyssey, okay, a $70 game. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe should not be a $70 game. It should be like a $50, maybe $60 game. Because there is quality that goes into that game, but not enough quality to justify the same price as Monster Hunter Wilds, as Grand Theft Auto 6, as, I don't know, these big, huge budget games. There's a lot of interactions that go on, and it is commendable, the work that is done, but it is not worth $70. So this overpricing and offering less and less, you know, Overwatch for $100, Overwatch 2 for $100, Concord for $100, it's not worth it. And GTA 6 being $100 is going to set the precedent that publishers should charge $100 for the games, and it's going to objectively price people out. So I'm sorry for going on a 35-minute rant. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you can at least understand where I'm coming from and why I feel so passionately about it. If you like the video, leave a like on it. Comment down below if you want to input your own advice. Maybe if you want to counter something I have to say, that's fine. You know, you're welcome. We can have a discussion about it. Or if you feel strongly in the other direction, let me know from your point of view why you think people shouldn't just be brokies and afford $100 for games, regardless of if they can afford it or not. Let me know your take on it. Now, this isn't to say consoles shouldn't cost more. I think consoles have a right to cost more. I think PC parts should have a right to cost more, but digital-only games, I think, with them, you know, mostly phasing out physical media, I think $100 is just too much. That said, thank everybody so much for watching. If you like the video, leave a like on it. Comment down below if you have any tips for me, and subscribe if you want to see more rants. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this or not. I'll probably start doing this outside of, you know, just whenever I have something to talk about. Yeah, that said, thank everybody so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.